Hey dolls, welcome to another StarrStruck interview on this gorgeous Sunday, and I have a very special guest today, Lizzie Bea, who is going to be playing the role of Tracy Turnblad when Hairspray returns to the Coliseum next April. It's all very exciting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for Lizzie to join and add her into the conversation. Do-do-do-do. But yes, it's quite bright today in Womben. Blue skies and sunshine. We had a gorgeous chat yesterday with Samuel J. Holmes, which is very nice. And today we've got Lizzie, so we're just waiting for her to join so we can chatty chat away. Da-da-da. There is a fear. Show me Lizzie.
I'm here!
Oh!
Hi!
How are you?
I'm good. Oh my god, I'm just so glad I got it to work. I was like, how do I do it?
Fine. Have you had a good day?
It's been a lovely day. I've been singing most of today, which has been really nice.
Nice. And how's the new puppy?
Oh my god, she's so gorgeous. I was really worried about today because I didn't know how she was going to react to me singing because she sometimes is a bit jumpy, but she's been so calm. It's been so nice. Yeah, I love her.
Right then, Lizzie, let's jump straight in.
Let's do it.
Do it. What was the first show that you ever saw?
Oh my goodness. First show I ever saw, I actually remember it was called The Rock Shop. It was like a brand new musical that was written by a guy in Brighton, which is where I now live. And the reason we saw it is because my godmother made all the costumes and they were amazing. So it was like, I mean, it was the most random show, but when I tell you I was obsessed with it, I used to listen to the soundtrack every day. So it was like about a greengrocer and then his, like a sweet shop came to town and no one ate fruit and vegetables anymore and they all wanted to eat sweets. And my godmother made all these costumes and people were in these like giant sweets costumes or giant fruit and vegetables and it was epic. And I was so obsessed. I listened to it all the time. And I mean, I think my mum knew from then. She was like, that's going to be it. Because I was obsessed. I can still like remember the songs. There was one that was like, at the rock shop, do, 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 do. Like I still remember it and I was probably about 5 or 6.
Amazing. West End show was that you saw?
West End. Luckily, I have amazing parents and they actually took us to see a lot of stuff in the West End. So when I was young, the main two I remember, we saw Beauty and the Beast and we saw Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And I know I saw Chitty for my 7th birthday because a few years ago I did a recording with the amazing Emma Williams. And I was like, I'm going to have to get my mum to find the photo of me coming to see you in Chitty for my 7th birthday. And she was like, okay, well, I feel really old now because you were 7 when I did it. I was like, sorry about it.
What was the first part that you ever played at school or amateur dramatics?
Yeah, I mean, I performed so much when I was little. The first show I ever did, like apart from Nativities, I did Annie, like an Amdram production of Annie when I was 7 and I was an unnamed orphan, but I absolutely loved it. And I did Annie 3 times when I was younger and I never played Annie. Rude.
Disgusting.
I know.
Who do I speak to?
My mum said it's because I was too fat to be an orphan. Isn't that so rude? She was probably right. I probably didn't look like I'd been starved.
Well done. When I do it, you can play Annie at 30.
Please.
We'll do...
Thank
Perfect.
you.
You're so... And what was your first job out of a drama school?
So I didn't go to drama school. I actually went to normal uni. So I had like a bit of a weird route in. And when I signed with my agent, the first audition I ever had was actually for the first ever workshop of Becoming Nancy. And I did it. I got the job. So that was my first ever job.
And then you did a little show called The Three Little Pigs by Starr.
I did. Yeah.
Was it in Australia? No.
Yeah, so I did it in Australia, yeah.
And how was it? Are you a home bird, or couldn't wait to jump on that plane?
It was really weird. Before I went, I had never had any desire to travel. It just wasn't something I was interested at all. And since that, I cannot get enough of it. Like, I haven't really had the money to like do it myself, but I've been very lucky that I've traveled quite a lot for work. I absolutely loved it. And I remember before the first show, I was backstage with Anthony Drew, and he just went, "How mad is it that you're about to make your professional stage debut at the Sydney Opera House?" And I was like, that's not even real, is it? Like, that's literally ridiculous.
Incredible. And did you find, because obviously it's a gorgeous score, but it's also directed the audiences at children.
Yeah.
Did you that you had to? Did you find it quite easy performing to children? Or did you find it? Could you see yourself in them? Was it enjoyable?
I mean, it was a massive learning curve because, I mean, as people know, like, children are brutal. They're not just gonna like clap if they think it's rubbish. Like, you know, every performance was different. They would never react at the same things or anything like that. But I'm so glad that I've had the experience of doing a show for kids, because it's just a completely different skill set. And like, I love kids. I do a lot of teaching. My mum was a teacher. I've kind of like grown up with doing all of that. So, and like, especially with that show, it's so heightened. And also, like, you're playing a pig. Like, it's such a heightened character that it was just so fun. And also, it's 55 minutes. Like, it's 55 minutes of intense dancing and singing in a massive pig costume in the heat of Australia. But like, it's so fun. And our schedule was amazing as well, because our first show would be at 10, and then we'd have another one at 2. So you were done by 3 o'clock, and then you could just enjoy the rest of the day. It was like the best job ever.
Gorgeous. And another completely different audience. And Lizzie, this is the first time I saw on stage, which was Fat Friends.
Yeah.
That show, who was written by Kay Mellor, who is a dream.
She is.
What would you say is your fondest memory of that show?
Of that show, I just think like we bonded so well as a cast, and that I think you could really tell on stage. Like, I met so many amazing people on that job. The main person I would have to mention is Jodie Prenger. Like, if anyone's ever met her or worked with her, she is just the #1 dream. Like, I adore her, and we've stayed so close. And she is honestly like a masterclass in how to lead a company. And like, with Hairspray coming up, that's like what I aspire to be. She's just the perfect balance of having loads of fun, but taking the job really seriously and just wanting the show to like be the best it can be. So, I mean, that was like my bucket list to work with her, because I've just loved Jodie since, you know, the Nancy program. So yeah, I just loved that. And yeah, it was also like, being a swing was something I hadn't ever really considered. Like, I was really umming and ahhing before taking that job, and my agent just eventually said to me, she was like, it's such a good experience to do it, because until you've done it, you can't really appreciate what that job is. And so I think after that job, I just, you know, I know how hard that job is. And, you know, I'm so supportive now of swings on any job that I do, because I've been there. So it was, yeah, a massive learning curve. But
And obviously it's a different audience from Three Little Pigs. What was the craziest thing that happened in the audience whilst watching that show? Because when I watched it in Birmingham, it was literally every joke was like, I know that girl, I am that girl, I am that bloke. So was the audiences always completely with you?
no, it really varied from place to place. Up north, the audiences were always amazing because it's a northern show, but sometimes down south, it just, I don't even know if it was because they didn't get it. I just think that southern audiences anyway are so much more reserved. Like, even on Kinky Boots, we found that they're more reserved anyway. But I mean, when we did it in Leeds, the audiences were electric because there were so many like local references, and people just got it. And, you know, if you'd watched the series, then you just instantly like got it. But it does vary. But I think that's like the beauty of touring, that every venue, every audience is different. And again, that's like another skill set that you have to learn, that like no matter what happens, you do the same show every night. You know, I haven't done a show in the West End yet, but I worked as an usher in the West End for 1.5 years, and you know you're going to get the reaction because people have travelled to London.
Yeah.
They're ready, there for a West End show. But you know, sometimes with a tour, you've just got like Jean from down the road who just goes and sees everything that's on at that theatre. She's not necessarily there because she loves the show. So it is always so varied. But I love touring. I've done it 3 times now and I've loved it every time. And it's just skills that you won't get from anywhere else.
And as you said, you were an usher. From one used to be usher to another used to be usher. So I've got so many. What was your favourite question that you were asked and you were like, I mean, how do you not know the answer to this?
I mean, we always used to say when we were at front of house that like people just seem to switch their brains off as soon as they walk into a theatre.
Yep.
And I can't remember like anything in particular, but we did just used to say it all the time. Like, you know, people can't even find the toilet by themselves. Like, you do it anywhere else, but in a theatre, people seem to need to ask you for absolutely everything. But I loved front of house. When I tell you, I loved it. And I was so lucky because I worked at probably 2 of the nicest theatres in London. I worked at the Adelphi and at Trafalgar Studios, which are 2 theatres that I already loved. Kinky was on at the Adelphi, so I was so lucky. And then Trafalgar Studios was kind of the other end of the spectrum because the show changed so frequently. So I kind of had the best of both worlds and worked with such amazing, supportive people. Like, where else do you work that when you get an audition, everyone's like rooting for you and so happy, and like people would get a job and everyone was just thrilled. And like, I made some of my closest friends from those jobs and I just loved it. I loved it.
I think that is, I mean, there's definitely, where I used to work, there is such a thing as an usher family and a theatre family. And it's so nice that it's still, even though London is you can easily get lost because it's so big. For them to have so much support for each other is beautiful.
Yeah.
But I think my 2 favourite questions I was asked Lizzie was, I'll try to do my accent. Excuse me, love, do these stairs go up or down? That's a great one. It depends
Wow.
where you're going. Or, which row's the front row? Honestly, God.
But
What?
it is, they can't do anything by themselves. And I do think it's that thing of people go to the theatre and they expect 5-star service. They expect everything done for them. And sometimes it is hard and sometimes it's a bit draining because you do have to like answer stupid questions and blah, 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 blah. But if you love theatre, there's just no better place to work.
And I'm sure it's similar to you. I used to spend, obviously, because of you worked on Kinky, so so you obviously watch a show for like the first 2 months or so, and then would watch the audience. But to watch the audience again is such, it's a great learning tool, but also it's just so much pleasure to go, right, in this bit they're all going to lose their mind at this bit when this happens.
Yeah, and that's why when I then did Kinky, it was the maddest thing, because I used to watch the finale and freak out, and then I would watch other people watch it and they loved it so much. Honestly, when I worked there, I was like, I would die to be in this show. And so when the tour was announced, I was literally on the phone. I was like, Gina, when I tell you, I need to be in it because I'm obsessed. And I just, that was why I am like so grateful with the trajectory that my career has had, because I know how lucky I am. I'm not one of these people who like went into the West End straight away and like have felt the highs of the West End and like nothing will ever feel like that. Like, I've had like a couple of years where I haven't worked and stuff like that, and so every job I know I'm so lucky and I'm so grateful. And like Kinky was just, it was wild because I just knew I knew I was so lucky, and every time it got to that finale, it was just the best feeling.
Did Chloe Hart give you any advice before you?
Well, because obviously I did Fat Friends with Chloe. Yeah, and when I got Kinky, she was like so happy. It was really sweet. But we just always used to say that like Pat in Kinky Boots is just the nicest track ever, because you kind of get little star moments, but you don't do like a huge amount. Like, I know that sounds like I'm really lazy, but it's, you know, the angels, when they're on stage, they're just working their butts off. Like, they're also not on for a huge amount, but when they are, it's like high stakes, like they are working their butts off. But as Pat, you got to do all the fun bits, but I was never sort of like overly exerting myself. But I used to sit in the wings and watch it every night. I would never get bored of that show. It's just brilliant.
It's such a shame though, because obviously the one place you missed out on the tour was Wolverhampton, and that's where I was dressing. And I had a lovely time with Alfie, who was the doll. But so Kinky Boots, I mean, what would you say was the hardest part of Kinky Boots for yourself?
Getting on the travs. Honestly, before we did it in rehearsals, I was having nightmares, because I've never been unfit, but doing that as like a bigger person, it's just not something where you do it and you're like, oh, I'm really confident that I'm going to be able to do this. And like, there are in Kinky, because it's a Jerry show, and he always puts people of all shapes and sizes, there are lots of tracks in that show that are played by bigger people, but for some reason Pat's the only fat person who has to haul herself up onto the travs. So I was honestly like breaking out into sweats just thinking about it. And when we were doing it in rehearsals, my legs were like covered in bruises because I was like hadn't got my technique down. I would like whack my legs onto the side of the trav. It was just awful. But you know, by the time you've done it for a couple of months, it's like clockwork and you're just so used to it. But at first, honestly, I was so scared.
And the reason why that I didn't get to meet you properly was because you were doing a little show called Becoming Nancy.
Yeah.
And I hadn't till I'd started looking into it. I had no idea what it was about. I didn't know it was a book. But to have read it and see the story and go, well, his name is David Starr, I am Adam Starr, and we both want to play Nancy. This is becoming a thing. But for people who haven't seen the show and hopefully will see the show, how would give a little bit of what the show is about?
So Becoming Nancy is about a 17-year-old boy called David Starr who's growing up in East Dulwich in London in 1979. And it basically is like a coming of age story about him discovering himself. And the main thing that he's discovering is his sexuality. So he gets cast as Nancy in the school play of Oliver, and the guy Maxie who gets cast as Bill Sykes is the captain of the football team, and they fall in love and they're kind of discovering all of that. But it is just incredible. Like, I cannot wait for it to happen properly, and especially for it to come to the UK, because it's a British show and like I just know British people will love it. But the music's incredible. So the music is Styles and Drew, and every song is like a different style of 70s music. So there's like disco tracks, there's a bit of ska, you know, some of it is like proper musical theatre. Like the opening number is like a massive like musical theatre opening number. And then obviously it's like Jerry Mitchell choreography and staging. So it's just amazing. And like it's the best experience I've ever had doing that. And working in America is just a treat. Like, the group of people that I worked with are incredible. And I've made friends for life on there. And we are just so excited to see what happens with it. And yeah, it's just amazing.
And you have that gorgeous song called Night Bus.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's just. I mean, I could talk about StarrStruck forever because obviously they've done loads of stuff. One of my favourites is Half a Sixpence.
Yeah.
The way they write is just. It's so character based and it's so story packed full that you're like, oh, I didn't know the show, so watching you and I wish I could remember the girl's name perform that song, I was like, oh, I know who these characters are. I know what they're longing for. I know the purpose of them. It was brilliant. And let's speak about this brand new thing that you will be doing in April. A little art house film. Not people know about it. Hairspray. Oh, Lizzie Bea, I cannot tell you how, as I said to you before, this show is getting me. Waiting to see you play Tracy is getting me through quarantine.
It's getting me through it as well. We didn't know if it was definitely going to happen.
Oh,
we were all living in fear, waiting to know, but it is. And honestly, I cannot tell you how lucky I feel to know that I'm going to come out of this awful situation and still get to do it, because the state of our industry at the moment is so upsetting. And I know that I am so lucky to know I'm going to have not just a job, but like the job of a lifetime at the end of this.
Yeah. Are you, what was the audition process like?
So it was really weird, right? So I think I'd seen it announced sort of like the beginning of last year. Like when it was first announced, I saw it come up. And we were doing Kinky Boots at the time. And obviously I'd done Becoming Nancy with Jerry. Like I've known Jerry for 5 years now. And we're not, it's really hard when you know a creative, because, you know, I would call Jerry a friend, but it's by no means I ring him up and I'm like, oi, Jezza, like get me an audition. Like, firstly, I'm not that sort of person. And secondly, it's just not really how it works. But I remember I was talking to some friends and I was like, you know, obviously, like, I'd really want to do it. Like, do you think I should email Jerry? And they were like, well, if anyone's in a position to do that, then you are. So I wrote him this really nice email and I was like, look, obviously, when auditions happen, like, I'd love to go in. And he was like, yeah, that's absolutely fine, but you'll have to do the whole process like anyone else would have to do it. And I was like, well, duh, not like just give me the part. Like, that's not how it works. So when it all started, all the auditions, I was in Atlanta doing Becoming Nancy. And we were in the middle of tech and they were like, oh, you need to send in a self-tape. And the hours that you work in America are ridiculous. So they call them 10 out of 12. So you're in the theatre for 12 hours and you work 10 of them.
Wow.
It was like mental. We were literally there 10 till 10 every day. So 9 a.m. on one day, me and my musical director there just like whacked out my self-tape, like one take wonder, send it in, haven't got time to do anything else, sent it in. And then I was like sitting in the auditorium and Jerry Mitchell was like 5 seats away. And I'm like, this is so weird. Like, I've just sent a self-tape that he's about to watch and I'm like teching this other show for him. Like, just bizarre. And then the kind of like next rounds were happening in a couple of weeks' time. And my agent had negotiated me a week off in between finishing Becoming Nancy and going back to Kinky Boots, which was meant to be for a rest. And then it ended up that I had 2 hairspray auditions that week. So that was really good. So I had to go in and basically do like kind of like an emergency audition because none of the creative team had seen me dance or do scenes. So I went in, did a bit of dancing and some scenes, and then they said, oh, we'd like you to do a final tomorrow, and by the way, Michael Ball's going to be in your audition. And I was like, okay, like, no big deal. So I was like freaking out, and you know what mums are like I said to mum, I was like, oh, Michael Ball's going to be like, bloody hell, oh my god, like everyone's mum just loves Michael Ball. So yeah, did the final the next day. There were 5 of us in the finals, and when I tell you that any one of us could have got it, like the level of talent was ridiculous. I only knew one other person, and it was my lovely friend Natalie Woods. who's actually going to be my cover, Tracy, which is so exciting. We're always in auditions together, so when I saw her, I was like, of course you're here. But it was so intense. Like, Jerry absolutely like put us through our paces. He made us dance the Tracy dance break and You Can't Stop the Beat 5 times back to back, no break, then straight into doing the beginning choreography while singing at the same time. Like, he was basically testing us to see if we could do it, but I was like, I honestly thought I was going to vomit. Like, it was just so intense. And Jill Green, bless her, the casting director, like, brought some blue roll in, and she was like mopping my head. She was like, are you all right? I was like, I feel like I'm going to die. Like, it was just so emotional. And then at the end, it was so sweet. Like, Michael Ball called us back into the room, and he like did this little speech, and he was like, you were all so incredible. Whoever gets this job, I can't tell you like how special it's going to be, but to even get to this point is such an amazing experience. And my mum had come up to London to meet me after my audition because she knows me well and she knew what I'd be like. And we were like, oh, should we go shopping and like wind down afterwards? And I was just silent. Like, I had literally like given everything. And you always like try and kid yourself that like you won't be bothered if you don't get it, but it's such a lie. Like, I kind of knew that this might be my last chance to do it, because I'm not old, but I am quite old to be doing Tracy, because they normally get like a fresh grad to do it. And I just knew I'd like given my everything. And the next day it got to about 6:30 p.m. and I was at home with my mum and my dog, and my agent rang, and I was like, oh, it's 6:30, it must be quite urgent. And I picked up, and she was just like, you got Tracy? And I was literally screaming. I just couldn't believe it. Like, that's a once in a lifetime moment that you have something like that. And I will never forget it.
Oh, it's honestly, Lizzie, it's so incredible, such an incredible story. And for someone who has worked so hard in the industry, which you have, I'm so pleased for you. I really, really am. So you did a lovely little, was it like a little audience with, where you watched Hairspray and you had, and did they give you any advice for playing the part?
Do you know what? It was so amazing, that event, because I'd never seen the original film before.
Oh.
I was obsessed with the 2007 film of the musical, because I was obsessed with musicals, and like, I just feel like that is such a perfect movie musical, the Hairspray film. And me and my sister were like obsessed. We used to watch like the 2-disc special edition and everything. Like, we just loved it. But I'd never seen the original. So yeah, the BFI did like a week of musicals, and they did this Hairspray event, and they were like, oh, Ricky Lake and Leanne Jane's going to be there. And I was like, oh my God, it's like 2 people. I was like, I've always wanted to meet them. And it was just so incredible to see the original version of Tracy. Like, and what's so amazing is that Ricky Lake created that character, and everyone since has stayed so true to like what Tracy inherently is. She is a big girl who doesn't give a monkey's what anyone thinks about her, and that is me. I have never cared. Yeah, I have never cared about being fat. I don't think it's something to be ashamed of. I love it, and like, that is why I just can't wait to do it. And Ricky was amazing to be able to meet her. She was so nice, and incredible career since. And then Leanne and I have remained really close since then, and it's been lovely to like feel like, I'm kind of stepping into her shoes. And she was incredible. She won a bloody Olivier Award. Like, it's big shoes to fill, but to have her being so supportive is just so lovely.
So take me to that moment. You have arrived at the studio, you've got your wig on to play Tracy for the photo shoot, and you see Mr. Ball in his costume. What is going through your mind?
Honestly, it was when I put the wig on that I was like, it's real now. Like, the wig is just iconic.
It
and
is.
It's so funny because I'd had a fitting for it like a couple of weeks before, but it wasn't styled or anything, so I just hadn't really had it. And then Richard, the head of wigs, like, put it on my head, and I was like, this is it. Like, that was the moment. It was just mad. And lovely Johnny Amy's, who's playing Link opposite me, who, when I tell you, is the nicest man who has ever graced this planet. He was there, and we're in quite a similar situation that we've both done shows for Jerry in America, but we're now making our West End debut for Jerry, who we both adore, in this show. And we get on so well with each other. And we were just at this photo shoot, like, this is mad. Like, it is ridiculous. Beautiful. But it was just the most gorgeous experience. And I thought, how lucky am I to not only be doing this, but doing it with some of the nicest people, because Marisha and Rita were there as well. And they're just, you know, when you meet people and just straight away you're like, oh my God, they're my people. Like, they're so nice.
They're your tribe.
Yeah, that is what it was like. And even on the first day of rehearsals, I was like, you could not get a nicer group of people.
Magic, absolutely magic, doll. And one last question about Hairspray. What do you think, what are you going to bring to your Tracy?
I think one thing that I will bring is, as a person and as a performer, I don't really have any inhibitions. I don't feel embarrassed about doing anything. And so I just hope that I can kind of like bring a freedom that Tracy needs to do absolutely anything, not care how I look, you know, and just absolutely go for it. And I just want to put 110% into every performance that I do. And oh God, honestly, it like makes me emotional even talking about it, because I still can't believe it's real.
Oh, well, Lizzie, doll, I'll be there, front row, on the first preview. Maybe in a week, who knows? Ready for some quick fire questions?
Let's do it.
Best performance that you've ever seen?
Oh, ever. Up there was Katie Braben singing like a Rolling Stone in Girl from the North Country.
Oh yeah.
Amazing.
Go to cast album.
Cast album, I love SpongeBob SquarePants.
Ah, gorge, absolutely gorge. Dream role.
Alphabet.
Yes. Go to shower song.
Shower song. I do love a bit of I Will Always Love You, and I think I'd only ever do it in the shower.
Biggest onstage mishap that you've been involved in?
Oh God, there's so many. It would have to be my lovely Andy Watkins accidentally pulling the red glitter curtain down in the middle of What a Man on tour with Kinky Boots. When I tell you I was crying, I was actually crying. I don't know how I got through the rest of the song, but it was brilliant.
Oh my God. Biggest achievement?
Tracy, 100%.
Scariest moment on stage?
Scariest, oh my God. I was doing a show called The Shakespeare Review, and I had this solo that I'd always get really nervous for, and I choked in the middle of the song, and I was like, how do I get through the rest of it? And I was just so scared, and I was literally like squeaking it out, so that was quite terrifying.
Favourite sweet?
Sweet. Oh, I love a licorice all sort.
Favourite month of the year?
April, my birthday month.
Smell?
Oh, I love rose.
Sound?
Sound? Do you know what? I love the sound of my dog's paws on the floor.
Gorgeous. Drink? Favourite drink?
Oh, Pepsi Max.
Okay, doll. So we have a time machine, Lizzie. I've created one somehow. I don't know how, but I've created one. Me and you are in it. We can go anywhere in the world. We can see any opening night of any musical ever. Two musical theatre nerds. What are we seeing?
We're seeing the opening night of Evita starring Patti LuPone.
Ah! That's the right answer. That is the right answer.
Can you even imagine what that was like? I would have died.
Have you read her book?
No, but I need to. I'm so obsessed.
Well, I'll send you a link to an audio. Don't read it. Listen to and read it. It's
oh my God, I will.
So let's play play a game called First Song. So I'm going to list 6 musicals, and you've got to sing me, not even a second, but a little bit of the first song that comes to your head when I mention them. Ready?
Okay.
Into the Woods.
Into the Woods.
Kinky Boots.
If you hit the dust, let me raise you up.
Wicked.
So if you care to find me,
Les Mis.
I dreamed a dream in time gone by.
Evita. Company.
Bell rings, door chimes, in comes company.
Hairspray.
Good morning, Baltimore.
Right, doll. These are the last few questions we've got here, which are quick fire. Ready? Hot or cold?
Cold.
Walk or run?
Run.
Dance or sing?
Sing.
Give or receive?
Give.
Meat or veg?
Veg.
Night or day?
Night.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Play a musical?
Musical.
Lily Savage or RuPaul?
RuPaul.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Beyonce or Celine?
Celine.
Hug or kiss?
Kiss.
Day or night?
Night.
Weber or Sondheim?
You can't do that. I have to say Weber just because of Evita.
Is that your favourite?
I'm obsessed.
Bernadette Peters or Patti LuPone?
Patty.
Patti. Lizzie, I cannot. I'm being serious now. I'm sure Michael and I'm sure that Dermot will tell you the show is so important to me, and I cannot wait to be in that theatre, social distancing or not, whatever, with a mask on, whatever, sat in my seat watching you play Tracy. I could burst now with excitement. The last question, Lizzie, is what would be the name of your autobiography?
I might just call it Literally, because I say that word so often and people always pick up on it. And I think the title, Lizzie Bea, Literally.
Literally. Well, it's
Perfect.
been a joy to talk to you. Have a lovely day. Have a lovely week with you. Have a lovely time with your puppy.
I will.
But yeah, thank you so much, Lizzie. I'm so
Thank
grateful.
you. It's been lovely. Nice to see you.
Bye.
Bye.